What's going on, guys? It's Groove, back with another book review, and today we have Civilization and Its Discontents by Sigmund Freud. I follow Ty Lopez, and this man just raves about this book. I think he said this is his favorite book ever, especially chapter 2. So I figured I'd pick it up and check it out. When I first started reading this book, it was like run-on sentences, and I was just like, what the heck am I reading it? And after the first chapter, like there was like 3 pages of him just talking about stuff. And then at the end of it, he was just like, well, maybe I'm wrong. So yeah, just scratch everything I just wrote. And then I was just like, what the heck is going on here? And it pissed me off because I was just like, I was just reading this and now you just said, never mind on everything you just wrote. And then I realized that this isn't like a book. This is more like a journal. This is him writing letters to a friend. This is Twitter/X back in the 1920s. Like, he's just getting his thoughts off. And so once I realized that, I just was like, oh, okay. And so I started reading it differently. So I was like, it's not really like a book. It's more like a journal or tweets. This book pretty much just goes into why, as we advance as civilization, do people get more depressed? And why aren't people happy today? Right out the gate, he's like, people aren't happy today because they have to suppress their sexual urges and their aggression. Happiness is brought by our libido in our sexual genitals and conquering stuff. And he says that civilization today, the more we advance, we have to dampen that in order to live together as a society and as a community. And we can't just do whatever we want sexually, and we can't just go conquer stuff anymore. We have to actually just be good to our neighbor. Which is why everybody's so angry today. He's really going deep and trying to dive deep into why people aren't happy today. And again, a lot of the times he just comes right back to sexual repression. Like, because we just can't go out and sleep with whoever we want today, that is why people aren't happy. Now, again, he was just getting his thoughts off back in the 1920s, and here we are, 100 years later, and, we've gone through kind of the whole sexual liberation thing. And I would say that, letting people go out and do what they want to sexually didn't really change anything. It didn't make civilization better or more happier. Personal opinion, everybody's just able to do whatever they want to and sleep with whoever they want to. And again, that didn't make anybody happier in society. I kind of think it made it worse. His thoughts are that we can't sleep with who we want to, and we have to get married and be with one person. That's what's driving people to be unhappy today. And so then he goes into what actually makes people happy, because he says when we're created, we're not created with happiness. Happiness comes and goes. And so he says, so what are things that people can do to be happy? Like, what creates happiness? He goes into art and beauty is like some of the highest forms of happiness. So people who are artists, people who scientists, people who solve problems. He was like, if you're doing deep work into something that's beautiful, that can give you a high sense of happiness. But at the same time, he says it's still not as intense as sexual urges and just kind of just sleeping with who you want to. He's really mad that you can't sleep with who you want to in this book. He also talks about how he's known a few people that have gotten to the spiritual arts and have started to do yoga, and how that has brought people happiness is kind of when you give away your material possessions and turn to spirituality. Not actual religion, but spirituality, because he touches on religion as well, but just going to the spiritual aspect of it. But he says, again, that's only for a select few people. Like, not everybody's going to want to do that. I do like the way he talks about how everything we do in this world, as far as happiness goes, comes down to the genitalia, especially with men. A lot of men, when we go out and conquer, when we go out and build, it's because of that sexual energy that we have, whether we want to conquer something or we want to go do something to impress a female. It all comes from the genitalia. And I do believe that's why a lot of guys today are struggling and not really going out there and building stuff, is because they're just watching too much, let's say, corn or OnlyPans. And they're playing around with themselves, and they're releasing that energy that they can use to go build something in their lives. And that's true. Like, once you depleted yourself as a man, like, you kind of like lethargic, you don't want to do anything anymore, you're just lazing around, maybe you want to go grab something to eat, and you need to not do that, as a man, and use that energy to go build in the world and go create something. And that will make you happy more than just, sitting around playing with yourself all day. Again, when he's talking about, happiness, it's a feeling that comes and goes. He talks about how, like, a lot of people will try to turn to religion who don't have a lot materialistically to find happiness in religion. And he says that does not work at all. He says it's the same thing as everything else. He was like, that feeling will come and go. Religion is just, he says it's a delusion of the masses. That's not what brings happiness into your life. He says they've achieved a lot scientifically. Again, this was wrote in the 1920s. He's like, over the last couple hundred years, we've achieved a lot scientifically, like new technology, medical advancements. But again, he says that, man has still not become happy. And he's like, I wonder if that's going to, change in the future or not. But he was like, more than likely it won't. And again, we see it today. This is pretty much the easiest time in history that it's been, that we know of, with everything. Washing machines, TV, social media. From my phone, I can order food right to my house. And people today are still depressed, anxiety, they're lonely. It's like we have all this technology and we still are not happy as a people. And again, he says 100 years ago, they weren't happy and nothing has changed. He's trying to dig deep into where happiness is. Like where can we find happiness where we can stay there all the time? Like what brings us joy and happiness? And he goes back to the deepest sense of happiness is when we can just follow our loins and our genitalia and just sleep with who we want to when we want to. He says those are the most intense feelings or times that we are happy. And whenever we're conquering something as men. And then he brings up a whole bunch of people throughout history, great conquerors and stuff, and how much joy and happiness that brought them. He's kind of right. You know what I'm saying? It's just Genghis Khan woke up one day and was just like, you know what? Let's just ride south into China and just take over as much stuff as we can. And he says this is where man gets his happiness from. Sex and aggression and going to conquer stuff. And that's pretty much the only places that people get, happiness from. And then he pretty much just ends with the reason why people are not happy today is because the more we advance civilization, we trade happiness for security. There's not going to be any stuff or advancements in society that are going to make you happy. He just believes we've given happiness up to build society. And so there's no such thing as happiness anymore. So this is why, people are depressed or anxiety, or they turn to alcohol or things to numb them because there's no more happiness in life anymore. And so, yeah, it's kind of a downer, but again, these are his thoughts. It's just, hey, the more we advance civilization, we just have to trade happiness, which is sex and conquering, for security and community. And so that's why man today is not happy in life. And you'll never be happy because we have to live in civilization and play with each other. Like work with each other, not play with each other, but work with each other. We have to, communicate with each other. And so we have to sacrifice happiness to do that. Do I agree? No. But as a whole, I can see how people not able to conquer anymore makes them unhappy, which is why you kind of have to conquer in different areas of life. Maybe go build a side business or, work your way up that corporate ladder. You kind of just have to revert that conquer energy into other aspects of life. That's pretty much it for this one. This one was definitely a hard read. Maybe I'm just stupid. But I felt like he just talked to talk a lot of the time, and it's kind of like hard poetry in a way. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's like artsy poetry the way he writes. He tries to be sexy, but it's I don't know. But yeah. So that's it for this one. Leave a like and comment if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in that next one. Peace.